Short history of the rock music. It all started back in 1930, when broke traveling black musicians introduced their blues music to white audiences, in clubs and brothels. In order to be heard, black jazz and blues musicians began using a new invention made by Orville Gibson, an amplified acoustic guitar which later became electric with two pickups. In the 50s, the Gibson's company chief inventor Lester Pulfus designed the legendary Les Paul, which is still the most popular rock and roll guitar today. Now that you know how rock music was truly originated, let's see how it got mainstream. In 1953, 18-year-old Elvis Presley is discovered and releases his first single, That's Alright Mama, which was one of first rock and roll records. In 1955, Elvis leaves Sun Records, selling his contract for $286 million. The king of rock and roll, physical attractiveness and sexual appeal were widely acknowledged. Presley was a sex symbol back then and still is today. A few years later, young Jimi Hendrix replaces his drum with a real guitar bought by his father for $5. Among others, Hey Joe and Purple Haze were his major hits and still popular today. By playing with his teeth and setting his guitar on fire, Jimi becomes a guitar showmanship and a major music legend of his era. Jimi has been considered the greatest instrumentalist in the history of rock music and is one of the most celebrated musicians of the 20th century. Music acts from the United Kingdom became popular in the US. Bands such as The Who, The Rolling Stones, and The Beatles made a lasting impact on the US music scene. In 1963, the Beatles song I Want to Hold Your Hand becomes an instant hit. It was the band's first #1 hit on the Billboard Top 100. The intense fan frenzy around the Beatles was such that originated the term Beatlemania, more popular than Jesus, as John Lennon once said. Also, in 1968, Jimmy Page forms Led Zeppelin. They become the best-selling music artists in the history of audio recording and called the biggest band of the 70s. Songs as Starway to Heaven, Kashmir, Black Dog, and Immigrant Song are some of their greatest hits and still very well known until this day. Meanwhile, the first Woodstock Festival is organized. Seen as a celebration of the countercultural lifestyle, it gathered 500,000 fans. The Earth Blues Company with Ozzy Osbourne becomes Black Sabbath, who are often cited as pioneers of heavy metal music. The band helped define the genre with releases such as Black Sabbath and Paranoid in 1970 and Master of Reality in 1971. Years later, Ozzy was dismissed from Black Sabbath due to his regular drug use and starts his career solo. In 1982, a controversial incident, still talked about today, was contributed to Ozzy's fame throughout the years. While performing, Ozzy beats the head off a bat. Osbourne's longevity and success have earned him the informal title of Godfather of Heavy Metal. In 1970, the British band Queen with frontman Freddie Mercury is formed. Freddie became a legend by his vocal range, stage presence, and lyrics. With their song Bohemian Rhapsody, the band becomes known worldwide. In 1977, the band releases News of the World that contained two rock's most recognizable anthems. We Will Rock You,
Sing it.
and We Are the Champions. Their music is still highly listened today. 3 years after Queen is born, the Australian band AC/DC is formed by brothers Malcolm and Angus Young. Back in Black launches them to new heights of success and becomes their all-time bestseller. Angus becomes famous for his wild on-stage antics and guitar spasms. In 1964, Robert Moog invents the synthesizer, which is to be popularized by the British band Pink Floyd and becomes characteristic of the music of the following decade. In 1973, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon becomes an immediate success, topping the Billboard chart for only 1 week and remaining in the chart for amazing 741 weeks.
Wow.
With 50 million copies sold, this was Pink Floyd's most commercially successful album. A worldwide economic crisis, frustration with too clean elitistic rock stars, unemployment, and desperation gave birth to a rather British-style punk rock with the Logic slogan "No Future." Punk expressed their brutal protest against the star system in terms of music, fashion, and attitude. The Sex Pistols became the undisputed leaders of this movement. although The Clash or Iggy Pop's and the Stooges provide more musical skills. And in the US, the Ramones and Patti Smith rock this movement. Meanwhile, a style of thick, massive sound, characterized by highly amplified distortion, extended guitar solos, and overall loudness is developed. The new wave of British heavy metal created many bands such as Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, and Judas Priest, as well as new styles in music and outfits. Bon Jovi, Motorhead, Guns N' Roses, Metallica are only a few of the bands that attract large audiences. Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose brought the band's music to another level with swing and kerning. The snake dance became his signature rock move. In their early years, they brought forth a hedonistic rebelliousness, earning the reputation of the most dangerous band in the world's live shows. In '87, Appetite for Destruction, the highest-selling debut album of all time in the United States, reached number 1 on the Billboard 200, with the so well-known Around the Seattle area, bands formed a new style of rock, grunge. Remained a local phenomenon until Nirvana's Smelled Like Teen Spirits became a large success. This was the first single from the band's second album, Nevermind. Kurt Cobain, the band's frontman, found himself referred to in the media as the spokesman of a generation, with Nirvana being considered the flagship band of a Generation X. Other grunge albums such as Pearl Jam, Tan, Soundgarden, Bad Mother Finger, Alice in Chains, Dirt found their way into the top 100 top-selling records. In 1990, Faith No More broke into the mainstream with their single Epic, the first truly successful combination of heavy metal and rap. This paved the way to the success of bands like Rage the Machine and Red Hot Chili Peppers, who all fused rock and hip-hop among other influences. Later in the decade, the more metallic sound named nu metal is pursued by bands including Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, and Korn, with their mainstream breakthrough album, Follow the Leader. This style, which contained a mix of grunge, punk, metal, rap, and turntable scratching, spawned a wave of successful bands like Linkin Park, POD, and Stand, considered the first of the best-selling bands of this genre. In 2001, nu metal reached its peak with albums like Stand's Break the Cycle, POD's Satellite, Slipknot's Iowa, and Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. New bands also emerged like Disturbed, Godsmack, and Papa Roach, whose major label debut, Finkfest, became a platinum hit. Around the year 2000, British bands have been seen as presenting image of rock as an ordinary person. Groups like Radiohead, The Verve, and Coldplay achieved wide international success. Nowadays, it's possible to create high-quality music, using a little more than a single laptop. These new techniques became to be used by existing bands such as Nine Inch Nails and developing genres that mix rock with digital techniques and sounds. That's about it. Rock on!